In aviation, there is an unwritten but intensely cruel rule. The book of flight safety is not written in ink. Line by line, it is written with the blood of passengers. Every smart system humming quietly in the background, every redundant computer, and every illuminated switch guiding the pilot in the dark cockpit has come at a terrifying price. The sky has always witnessed horrific disasters that turned advanced machines of steel and glass to ash in a fraction of a second. Flights that took off with hope but never reached their destinations. But humanity learned great painful lessons from the heart of these tragedies. Engineers combed through Wadu-shattered wreckage and listened to haunting black box recordings to pull out technologies that today save millions of lives. Today on the Flight.404 channel, we dive deep into the heart of history's deadliest accidents. Disasters that changed the physics and rules of flying forever. Before we uncover these chilling truths, if you appreciate deep, meticulously researched aviation documentaries, please take a second right now to hit the like button and subscribe to Flight.404. Your support is exactly what allows this growing channel to survive and bring you more of these untold stories. Now, let's begin. On the bright, cloudless morning of September 25th, 1978, the sky over San Diego, California was pregnant with an unexpected disaster. PSA Flight 182, a Boeing 727 carrying 135 people, was on its final approach to the airport while a small Cessna 172 training aircraft was flying in the same airspace. At the time, pilots relied heavily on the simple, flawed see and avoid rule. Despite the control tower's warning, the Boeing pilots, after initially spotting the Cessna, lost track of it against the busy city backdrop and the blind spots of their cockpit windows, falsely assuming they had passed it safely. The Cessna was flying right beneath the Boeing's belly. In an instant, the massive Boeing descended onto the smaller plane, tearing it apart. Both aircraft plummeted at breakneck speed into a quiet residential neighborhood, raining fire and debris. 144 people were killed. This disaster proved that the human eye is entirely unreliable in a crowded, high-speed sky, leading to the invention of the Traffic Collision Avoidance System, TCAS. This is an ingenious system completely independent of ground radar. The computers of two approaching aircraft communicate with each other in a fraction of a second, commanding one plane to climb and the other to descend, ensuring they pass each other safely in the vastness of the sky. But sometimes, danger lurks not in the crowded sky, but in the pitch dark of night and sheer human distraction. On the night of December 29th, 1972, Eastern Airlines Flight 401, a massive L1011 TriStar, was approaching Miami when the green light indicating the nose gear was locked down failed to illuminate. The pilots put the plane on autopilot at 2,000 feet and focused their entire collective attention on troubleshooting a burned out $2 light bulb. In the midst of this intense focus, the captain accidentally bumped the control yoke, causing the autopilot to silently disengage. The perfectly sound, fully functioning aircraft slowly lost altitude in pitch darkness over the desolate Everglades swamps. Because everyone in the cockpit was fixated on the tiny bulb, no one noticed the altimeter winding down. The plane crashed into the swamp, leaving 101 dead. This deadly, silent descent gave birth to the Ground Proximity Warning System, GPWS. Using a radar altimeter, this system actively measures the true distance to the ground and, if the aircraft is descending too fast toward the earth, loudly and robotically shouts in the cockpit. Terrain, pull up. The next tragedy stemmed from a deadly, unimaginable security loophole.
Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center.
Holy fuck! Oh my God!
On September 11th, 2001, terrorists armed with simple box cutters easily breached the flimsy cockpit doors of 4 passenger jets. They commandeered the aircraft to use them as guided missiles against the Twin Towers and the Pentagon, a catastrophic event with 2,977 victims that fundamentally changed world history. Before that dark Tuesday, the cabin door was merely a psychological barrier meant for privacy. But afterward, heavily reinforced, bulletproof, and locking doors made of Kevlar became mandatory across the globe. Today, entering the cockpit requires a specific security code, and if the pilot presses the deny switch from the inside, the door transforms into a vault. It will not open under any circumstances, not even against a point-blank gunshot or the heavy blow of an axe. Fire and toxic smoke are the ultimate nightmares for passengers trapped at 30,000 feet. On June 2, 1983, a hidden fire started behind the walls of the rear lavatory on Air Canada, Flight 797. Due to the lack of smoke sensors, no one noticed the smoldering danger until thick, acrid smoke began pouring into the main cabin. The pilot skillfully managed an emergency landing in Cincinnati, but the nightmare was just beginning. Opening the exit doors introduced a sudden rush of fresh oxygen into a cabin filled with superheated, volatile gases. This triggered a terrifying flashover phenomenon. The entire cabin erupted in an explosive fireball in a split second. 23 passengers, losing their way in the blinding, poisonous smoke, perished before they could reach the exits. This disaster made the installation of highly sensitive smoke detectors in all lavatories and automatic halon gas fire extinguishers in trash bins mandatory by law, and all aircraft seat cushions were stripped and replaced with strictly fire-retardant materials. Sometimes, the chain of disaster begins on the runway, masked by bone-chilling cold. On January 13th, 1982, amidst a severe winter storm, Air Florida Flight 90 waited in heavy runway traffic for a long time after its initial de-icing, allowing fresh, heavy snow to freeze onto the wings. The pilot's most fatal mistake was failing to turn on the engine anti-ice system. The frozen pressure sensors sent false, inflated thrust readings to the cockpit, convincing the crew that the engines were at maximum takeoff power when they were actually producing very little thrust. The heavy aircraft, struggling with low power and wings deformed by jagged ice, barely managed to lift off before stalling and crashing tragically onto the frozen Potomac River Bridge. 78 people died. This horrific accident proved that even a millimeter-thin layer of ice completely destroys the delicate aerodynamics of flight. Since then, strict, non-negotiable de-icing procedures using thick, gel-like anti-icing fluids that protect the wings right up until the moment of takeoff became international law. One of history's most chilling aviation mysteries involves a completely invisible killer. On August 14, 2005, on Helios Airways Flight 522, a ground engineer left the cabin pressurization switch on the manual setting. As the Boeing 737 climbed into the thin upper atmosphere, the cabin air slowly and silently vented out. The pilots misinterpreted the blaring depressurization alarm as a takeoff configuration warning. Due to severe, creeping oxygen deprivation, everyone on board slowly suffered from hypoxia, a silent, painless condition that steals consciousness before you even realize you are in danger. Intercepting fighter jets reported an eerie sight. The pilots slumped over their controls. This ghost plane flew blindly on autopilot for hours until it ran out of fuel and crashed into a rugged mountain in Greece, leaving 121 people dead in an eternal sleep. This haunting accident led to the urgent modification of cockpit alarms to prevent fatal confusion and drastically improved automatic oxygen mask systems, ensuring they deploy immediately upon pressure loss to produce pure, life-saving oxygen for 15 critical minutes. And finally, on August 22, 1985, the engine combustion chamber of British Airtours Flight 28M violently exploded during its takeoff roll. The wind blew the massive flames directly onto the fuselage, rapidly melting the aircraft's skin and filling the cabin with thick, highly toxic black smoke from burning plastics. Because the physics of fire dictate that smoke and intense heat always rise to the ceiling, the standard upper exit signs vanished completely in the pitch darkness. The passengers were fully conscious and alive but couldn't find the exits in the blinding smog, leading to 55 people suffocating in the tangled aisles.
The worst British air disaster for 13 years. 54 people are killed at Manchester Airport, trapped in a burning plane.
This disaster not only strictly enforced the mandatory 90-second evacuation rule, but more importantly, gave birth to the emergency floor path lighting system. Today, glowing photoluminescent strips are installed along the floors of every commercial airliner so passengers can crawl beneath the toxic smoke, breathe the cleaner air below, and physically follow the lights to salvation. The unprecedented safety of air travel today is a profound gift from people whose lives paid the ultimate price to invent and mandate these technologies, ensuring the sky remains the safest transport route on Earth. Creating these in-depth documentary analyses takes weeks of heavy research and editing. Because we are a growing channel, every single like and subscription truly means the world to us and tells the algorithm to share these vital stories with others. If you want to see more high-quality aviation content, please hit that like button, subscribe to Flight.404, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a flight with us. Until our next flight together, I wish you safe skies and calm winds.